Shalom and welcome. This is Man's Final Steps. It is a continuing series to those who will be among the ranks of the 144,000 and multitude mentioned in Revelations chapter 7 and 14. Today is January 29th, 2014. My name is Symmanayah, and as I mentioned, Man's Final Steps is a continuing series directed to those who will be among the ranks of the 144,000 and multitude. With that said, if you are tuning in after following or listening to other segments, I want to take a moment to thank you and salute you for your endurance and your patience, for your ability to listen and examine the words of these messages. Again, I salute your patience, your tolerance, your endurance. I pray that these words are reflective of an obedient servant. With that said, in this segment of Man's Final Steps, it is entitled Characteristics of the Two-Edged Sword. Characteristics of the Two-Edged Sword. My brothers and sisters, I want to first welcome you again to another segment of Man's Final Steps. In this segment, I will present something I believe the Spirit of Yahusha revealed to me. I ask your undivided attention and that you take a prayerful position in listening carefully to this message. Again, the segment is entitled Characteristics of the Two-Edged Sword. I will present two dynamics that share similar relationships: the two-edged sword and water, both symbolic of the word of the Almighty Father Yahuah, His word through His set-apart Spirit sent in Yahusha's name. Let me start by just sharing a few scriptures, actually a little more, but let me share the following with you. Nahum 1:12 reads, "Thus says Yahuah, though they are strong and many, even so they shall be cut off and pass away. Though I have afflicted you, I afflict you no more." Matthew 7:19 reads, "Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire." Hebrews 4:12, "For the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit, and of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart." John 1:14 reads, "And the word became flesh and pitched his tent among us, and we saw his esteem as an only brought forth of a Father, complete in favor and truth." Keep these verses in mind that I just read as I introduce additional scriptures, like Psalms 1:3, For he shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of water, that yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither, and whatever he does prosper." It's talking about a wise man here. Read the entire chapter and you will see how it is most wise to listen, to be obedient, to know, to pay attention to the Almighty Father. Ephesians 5:26 read, "In order to set it apart and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word." Proverbs 18:4 reads, "The word of man's mouth are deep waters. The fountain of wisdom is a flowing stream." My brothers and sisters, if we can agree that words of righteousness are like water, if we can agree the words from the Almighty Father Yahuah sent through Yahusha Mashiach our Messiah are sharper than any two-edged sword, as well as the scriptures, when made alive, represent His word, then this message should indeed prove to be fruitful. I'm compelled to believe when we witness scriptures coming alive, they flow like a rushing river with each time we read it. In other words, we can read one passage of scripture, read that same passage over and over again, and if we discover the life in it, we discover something amazing. We discover something that takes us beyond the literal. If we learn how to follow the living guidance of Yahusha, our Mashiach, as he makes the scriptures alive, yes, we will come to be able to experience going beyond the literal and learn how to follow what is made alive much, much more than what the letter presents. Yes, we will find that the scriptures are filled with life, like a flowing river. It is by these actions one is able to confirm the words that I speak regarding the details of the two-edged sword. For you will not find literal scriptures describing this message, but for those who lean into the living spirit of Yahusha, you will discover within the scriptures are confirmation to these words. Pray to discern and understand the power of living water. As I mentioned, you won't find the literal scriptures describing what I am about to share, but if you search the scriptures, you will find confirmation in these words. Righteous words come from him that is the beginning and the end, Aleph Tah. They are living words. Therefore, when compared to a two-edged sword, or sharper than a two-edged sword, they represent the two-edged sword, the ultimate two-edged sword of righteousness. Now consider the characteristics of a two-edged sword. It has a point, and along both sides are sharp edges. The greatest two-edged sword is the word of the Almighty Father Yahuah, sent by a set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name. Yes, allow me to reread the following two verses. Hebrews 4:12 says the word of Elohim is living and working and sharper than any two-edged sword, cutting through even to the dividing of being and spirit, of joints and marrow, and able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart. John 1:14, as I read earlier, and the word became flesh and pitched his tent among us, and we saw his esteem of an only brought forth of a Father, complete in favor and truth. Now, if a two-edged sword has its point removed, its edges become dull. And its edges, if a two-edged sword had its point removed and its edges became dull, it would be left with the weight of the rest of the sword. Though the sword would still have a handle, its intended purpose would diminish or be brought to an end. In order to ensure the greatest characteristics of the ultimate two-edged sword, or something that is sharper than a two-edged sword, the word of the Almighty Father Yahuah, through a set-apart spirit sent in Yahusha's name, must, is, and will always be a functional word with a point and sharp edges, along with weight. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, the point and sharp edges represent the power to cut through anything, and the weight is reflective of his ever so confirmation of righteousness. When we look closely at the point of a sword, it is very keen, as well as the profile of the sharp edges. They too are narrow and very keen. The rest of the body of a two-edged sword blends between 2 points, the point and the sharp edges, and what's in between them is the rest of the body of a sword. I pray that you're able to picture what I am describing. I invite you to take a look at a picture of a sword and discover confirmation to my descriptive words. My brothers and sisters, these are the last days. End times are here, and extreme humbling events are coming in the form of whirlwind and storms, including snow and winter storms, ice storms, tornadoes and hurricanes, earthquakes. Extreme humbling events are coming, and they also will include famine, drought, pestilence, and disease. And into the wake of all these will come anger, violence, chaos, turmoil, economic distress, civil unrest, and much, much more. My brothers and sisters, the Almighty Father promised us many things of which will come to be fulfilled. There will be the emergence of the 144,000 and multitude, as described in scriptures during these end times, these times of man's final steps. Since there are promises made and time is winding down or shortened, it is safe to say with intensity we will witness an acceleration of orders and commands to complete what must come to pass before the return of our Messiah, our Mashiach Yahusha. I submit to you the Spirit of Yahusha will shape, refine, and perfect those who will be among the ranks of the children of obedience, the 144,000 in multitude, who will come out of the great tribulation, as described in Scripture. We will witness actions and see the true characteristics of something sharper than any two-edged sword, taking appearance never before seen among man. Consider this: there will be a small group of leaders, a very small group, keen like a point cutting through any and all strongholds, as led by the Spirit of Yahusha, just as the point of a sword. If you look at the story of Moshe, we see him along with Aaron or Aharon, like the point of a sword wielded by the hand of the Almighty Father Yahuah. If you search the scriptures fully, you will come to realize there was a large crowd of people who followed them as the Spirit of Yahuah directed. Look further into the story and you will discover there were elders appointed to bring order and discipline to assist with the exodus from Mitzrayim, or Egypt, as commonly known by many. My brothers and sisters, I submit Moshe, or Moses, and Aharon, or Aaron, as you know, as some may know him. They were as the point of the sword. The elders were as the sharp edges of the sword, and the crowd or multitude was as the weight of the sword, with the hand of the Almighty Yahuah as one wielding the sword. Pray that you're able to discern and understand the life in these words. If you are able to receive these words as true and righteous, I submit to you, so will we witness a similar display in structure and action in the second Exodus that will include the 144,000 and multitude, as we are refined and brought together. Just like we only saw two as the point, Moses, and Aharon or Aaron, or Moses and Aaron, just like we saw two at that point, we will witness the two witnesses of Revelation. We will come to see the two witnesses of Revelation emerge. Just like there was a multitude who left Mitzrayim or Egypt, there will be 144,000 and multitude gathered together from the four corners of the earth, thereby leaving their current positions of bondage. This will be the second Exodus, only this time the children of Yahuah are being gathered from around the world. Just like there were elders during the days of the first Exodus, there will be chosen elders rising among us today. Elders who are chosen by the Spirit of Yahusha. There will be nothing, no one, nor man, nor woman, nor child, nor beast, nor anything who can stop what is unfolding. Picture this, my brothers and sisters. What is about to emerge will be like one gigantic living sword of righteousness at the hand of the Almighty Father Yahuah through his set-apart Spirit sent in Yahusha's name. Yes, Yahusha, our Mashiach, our Messiah. Are you still with me? If necessary, please rewind and listen to these words again. My brothers and sisters, we will face the most difficult decisions of our lives in the coming future. Some of us are experiencing that now. Yes, we will make some hard choices in the foreseeable future, if not already. There are those who have already witnessed being placed in this position and have made some of the most difficult choices of their entire lifetime. Look around. Ask those who are around you, those whom you believe are pursuing righteousness. I don't believe it would take too long to discover confirmation to these words regarding facing tough decisions of a lifetime. Back to the characteristics of a two-edged sword. If this ultimate two-edged sword, or if this image is sharper and more perfect than any two-edged sword, if this represents the word of the Almighty One, it is and always will be pointed and sharp with no exceptions. I submit to you, if we are reflective of the Spirit of Yahusha's word, then we will witness instructions, guidance, reproof, discipline, and judgment to keep us pointed and sharp. Let me repeat, keep us pointed and sharp. Pay close attention to these next words. If we accept compromising teachings and yield to false prophets and leaders, it is as though we make And note I said as though we are making the two-edged sword dull. If out of disbelief and or avoidance we disregard chosen leaders of the spirit of Yahusha, it is akin to removing the point of a two-edged sword or something much greater and sharper than any two-edged sword. If we fail to identify righteous elders, we contribute to removing sharp edges of the sword. My brothers and sisters, a two-edged sword without a good point and sharp edges is left with diminished use, with only the weight, the crowd of its existence. How many have seen a crowd of people with no leaders? Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. This will not be the case of the rising 144,000 in multitude. This will not be the case. I have mentioned in times past how we will witness small groups grow into larger groups and ultimately represent the final group, the 144,000 and multitude described in scriptures. My brothers and sisters, with each group, we will witness a refining process which will reflect each group growing as a two-edged sword or something more sharper, more pronounced, more reflective of the guidance of the Spirit of Yahusha. We will see these groups, the small groups with leaders and elders among them. Then we will witness those who will be among the children of the disobedience move and migrate, where the small groups will merge into larger groups. And then they will be reshaped and restructured, and we will see a reflection still of something sharper than any two-edged sword, or at best to describe a magnificent two-edged sword as guided and wielded by the Spirit of Yahusha. There will be leaders and elders of small groups, with many turning over their position to others who have been chosen as leaders and elders for the newly merged and larger group. This process will continue until the two witnesses of Revelation, the 144,000 and multitude, emerge as a unified assembly, representing the final display of the ultimate two-edged sword wielded by the Spirit of Yahusha, our Mashiach, our Messiah, before his return. During this process, it will be a difficult time for some leaders and elders to relinquish their positions. So what we will witness will be humbling events, direct orders and commands, living instructions and guidance, yes, and in some cases reproof, discipline, and judgment in order to bring the formation of the ranks together as ordered by the Spirit of Yahusha. My brothers and sisters, it is very critical that we come to grips realizing there are many details that will come to pass to produce the end results described in scriptures regarding end times. These are indeed man's final steps. There are no rewind buttons. There will be no do-over opportunities. We will come into obedience as the Spirit of Yahusha so orders. Those who will be among the leaders and elders of this emerging group, being refined, will be tasked with the most difficult decisions of their lifetime. Prepare to witness individuals demonstrating right rulings and judgments and delivering tough orders with proof by the Spirit of Yahusha. Prepare. There will be shock and awe. There will be many surprises, but know this: the formation of the foretold children of obedience will come to be. Like I stated before countless times, nothing nor anyone will be able to stop what is to come, what is unfolding as I speak. Rise and awaken, my brothers and sisters. The time is at hand to discern the refining process. The time is at hand to pursue more earnestly your purpose, your calling, your chosen positions. Seek to discern and understand what must and will come to be from you. Yes, you. You see, the Almighty Father Yahuah will bring us into obedience. We will discover how to respond with accuracy to living orders and commands from the Spirit of Yahusha, either directly or from his set-apart spirit, or through one of his chosen mouthpieces, elders and or leaders. There will be a rise and an emergence of the 144,000, represented by 12,000 each from the 12 tribes of Yasharal, commonly known as Israel. True Yasharal will rise. Soon the two witnesses of revelation will become visible and emerge as the final leaders of the children of obedience, as guided by the Spirit of Yahusha. These are indeed man's final steps. I pray that each of you can by now see the polishing, the sharpening, the refining that is taking place to represent the final characteristics of the ultimate two-edged sword, or something that is greater than any two-edged sword. That is the fulfillment of the word of the Almighty Father, the final reflections of what is ordered by the Almighty One, Yahuah, through his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name before his return. My brothers, my sisters, my family, continue to be encouraged. This is a plan that belongs to the Most High Father Yahuah. He will honor all promises made to his children, and we will witness participants described in Scripture demonstrating and partaking in the fulfillment of what is so written regarding the 144,000 and multitude. Continue to pursue earnestly like never before what is ordered, for you may indeed come to discern and understand that you are part of the 144,000 and multitude described in Scriptures. Seek to discern and understand what is before you. Man's final steps are real. Until next time, pray on these matters and come to identify the characteristics of a two-edged sword, or something that you would say is much sharper, much quicker, much more pronounced. Come to identify he who wields the power of life immeasurably, he who wields a word of righteousness, a word that cuts through and that is sharper than anything we can imagine. Pray to identify and discern what the Spirit of Yahusha, our Mashiach, has in store for us. Let us have a ready mind to respond and obey. Let us come to realize there will be chosen leaders who will execute orders and commands as given by the Spirit of Yahusha. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, continue to stay tuned as this series continues, as man's final steps continues with messages that would be for the 144,000 and multitude mentioned in Revelations chapter 7 and 14. Until next time, shalom, shalom, shalom.